I want to show you today the results of planting my garlic with that woven ground cover. I did promise you that I would show you how it went, so let's get started. So I put out a video last year of something new that I wanted to try. I wanted to try planting my garlic with a woven ground cover. You already do have to cover your garlic for winter, so I thought maybe this would help it along the growing process and make my garlic grow bigger and better. And anyway, I decided I wanted to try it, but one of the main reasons for me was to reduce the amount of weeding that I would have to do in the garden as well. So last fall, I laid out that ground cover, made all the holes to plant the garlic, and planted my garlic over winter. I did attempt to put some straw over top, but because of that ground cover is kind of like it's not a tarp, but it has that slippery surface to it. The straw didn't stay on top of the cover too well. I kept going back and trying to put it back on top, but I was a little concerned that maybe it would freeze over winter, but at least that didn't happen. So about a month and a half ago, it was time to harvest the garlic. So the first thing that I needed to do was to remove that woven ground cover. I was a little concerned that it was going to be a tough job to do because you can't cut the tops off of the garlic to remove the ground cover. You'd have to remove the ground cover and not remove the leaves of the garlic, because that has to dry with the garlic. So anyway, it turned out to be an easy process. My dad was around, he saw me doing this, and he came to give me a hand. Of course, it wasn't as big of a job as I thought it was going to be, so that went really well. And then we proceeded to harvest all the garlic. And it's been about a month and a half now. The garlic has been hanging out in the garage drying. So let's go check out how that's doing, because my whole goal was to see if it seemed to do better, if it seemed to be the same, or maybe not doing as well. So let's go out to the garage and see how that garlic did. So it's a little cramped in here. I don't know if you can tell, and for some strange reason I can't turn the lights on today, but that's okay. I'm just here really to collect the garlic. So I'm going to cut them off the stems. Usually I take everything down, but I'm just going to cut it off so it'll go quick, and then bring everything inside. I have here probably not even a quarter of the garlic that I've harvested or that I planted this year actually. I'm going to start by cleaning off a few because it's a little bit hard to compare when they look like this and they look all dirty. So I'm just going to show you quickly what I do just to kind of clean them off. And then I'll show you, I do have some garlic left over from last year. Not a whole lot left, but enough that I can show you the comparison of the sizes between last year's harvest and this year's harvest. And as well, just so you know that the garlic that I have left from last year, it's been a year. It doesn't always last quite so well, so I don't know if I dried it longer or did something different last year, but they really lasted well, so that's great. They're starting to sprout a little bit, but you can just cut that out and it still works great. So let me clean off a few of these, and then I'll show you the comparison between last year's garlic to this year's garlic. So to start by clean your garlic is I always start by cutting off like the dried off roots from it. And then it kind of looks a little ratty, as you can see. So you want to take off like just maybe like a layer of the skin of the garlic, just enough as to what easily comes off that's all dried up off the top. So you make your way through all of your garlic, just removing skin or the dried layers from the top. And that's why I say it's a messy job. And I usually do it outside. And one final note, these are actually the same variety, and I know they don't look the same, they don't look like they're the same color. I'm gonna stop harvesting for today. Like, I'm not gonna go get the rest that are out hanging in the garage because it's so humid today that I'm really having a hard time removing the skin from the garlic. Like, it's so humid out that I'm afraid that they're not going to be properly dried. So for the ones that I have harvested, I'm going to clean them up, but I'm going to lay them out. I'm not going to store them yet because they almost feel kind of humid. We've had a lot of rain in the last few days, so I'm going to finish harvesting the ones in the garage when it's a little bit drier outside. Now I want to compare last year's harvest from this year's harvest. So I went through my basket of garlic that I harvested to try to find the smallest one that I could from this year to compare with last year's harvest, because I usually plant the largest ones. And so this is a fairly large one that I have left from last year, and this is one of the smallest ones that I was able to find in my garlic for this year. So if I look at my last year's garlic that I have left over, they're nice. They're actually really nice. I was happy. But if I compare to the garlic that I got this year, like this seems to be more of the average size of the garlic that I got this year, compared to this would probably be the average size that I got last year. So I would say if I try to hold on to the same amount, I think it's safe to say that my garlic did much better this year than it did last year. So overall, I guess I would say that they did do better with the ground cover. I tried to keep everything else the same. I fertilized the same amount as I usually do. I can't control the weather, but it was very dry for a lot of time, and it's not that easy to get water out in the garden, so they definitely didn't get more water or less water than usual. Maybe the weather could have played a factor. Maybe it was the ideal season for growing garlic this year. That could have played in as well. I'm going to definitely try it again for next year to see if I get the same incredible results as I did this year for next year, because I'm really, really impressed about the size of the garlic that I got this year. If you do remember as well, one more thing that I did this year is I did use that ground cover for my sweet potatoes. So be sure to keep an eye out. It's still too early to harvest sweet potatoes. We haven't had any frost yet, so I leave them in the ground as long as I can. So I will show you as well how the sweet potatoes did with that ground cover. So I hope you enjoyed my content. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give it a big thumbs up and check back again soon to see what other content I'll have coming out.